Salutations, Imperial citizens and battle brothers. Preparations for the Firebug Open are in full swing. Last time, we decided to bring an Ultramarine Vanguard Spearhead army, and I submitted 3 different lists for trial. Today, we will talk about the results of playing with those lists. For a starter, we have the Middleton-style Vanguard with support vehicles. I did not like this list very much because the vehicles do not massively benefit from being in the Vanguard. They are very tough to shift thanks to Shadow Masters, but with them being incapable of using the calculated feint stratagem, these vehicles give your opponent a target to pin their charges on. Imagine you play against a Blood Angels army with 3 units of Death Company with jump packs in Deep Strike. All 3 of these units can just line up 9-inch charges on your vehicles, and statistically one of them should connect. And once the Vanguard gets into close combat, the Vanguard is in trouble. Outside of the vehicles, I don't think you want to be in Ultramarines without Uriel Ventress. He gives you the ability to deep strike the Centurions on the first turn if you are the second player, a critical benefit to ensure your opponent can't overrun your position with early game aggression. I will talk more about infiltrators when we get to my list, but I also have an issue with infiltrators. Next, the John Lennon build. This build has already won a few grand tournaments in the US and tries to cram as many Inceptors into the list as feasible. This list is proven to be very good, but I have a few personal issues with it. First, it is not possible to put the Centurions and all 3 Inceptor squads into reserves, because it would exceed the maximum limit of 1000 points. While the Centurions usually start on the table in close to every game, if you are faced with a heavy indirect fire army, you would be forced to deploy 3 Inceptors on the table to protect the Centurions. My second issue is the singular 3 model Eradicator squad. Small squads of Eradicators are more of a scoring unit than a genuine threat. 3 Marines should destroy a small transport or a walker with relative ease, but they won't win a fight with a genuine battle tank most of the time. However, by having 2 units of 3, you open up the possibility to either score points in different quarters, or for both of those squads to team up and deal with a vehicle together. Last but not least, Inquisitorial Henchmen. These guys are in the list because the points didn't allow for the 3rd Scout Squad, and they are much worse than Scouts. Henchmen are very cheap and they hold the backfield. That's all they really do. Henchmen have no defense and they aren't as versatile as Scouts. On top of that, Henchmen are not Space Marines and therefore can't move away when charged or use any of the other abilities of the detachment. Finally, we have to get into my list. First, I do still like Aggressors. Aggressors are genuinely a good melee unit, but what I did not like was the Infiltrator squad. You see, in theory, the Infiltrators help defend against other reserve-heavy armies like the Necron Hypercrypt, Grey Knights, or even another Vanguard Spearhead. However, in my testing I noticed 2 issues. One, the Infiltrators usually want to occupy the same general board space as the company heroes. Using your Infiltrators between your home objective and the center usually screens the same area as the board as the company heroes. You can deploy them outside of that area, but then they aren't doing much of anything Scouts can't do for cheaper. In practice, I also noticed that Infiltrators aren't an automatic solution against Deep Strike as they seem. Inceptors move 10 inches, and it is very easy to rapid ingress your Inceptors and advance within range of the Infiltrators to destroy them. This usually leaves your Inceptors in a good spot far away from the enemy and enables your other reserves to strike next turn. In my opinion, Infiltrators are an amazing way to shore up a conventional strategy, like the Gladius, which approaches the enemy head-on. But for the Vanguard, I have come to believe it is more important to execute your own game plan as well as possible without compromising to bring specific tech pieces. With those lessons incorporated, I have fine-tuned 2 more lists between which I will decide when we get into the metagame and the tournament specifics. First, we have a modification of the Lennon list. I ditched 3 Inceptors and brought back the 3 missing Eradicators, which conveniently left enough points to replace the Henchmen with the 3rd Scout Squad. The second list is a modification of what I submitted earlier. We remove the Infiltrators and bring the Scout Squad. That leaves the list with 50 spare points, which I have decided to invest into an Ancient. Ancients are a usually never taken leader model for generic Space Marine units. They increase their OC characteristic and do not much else. However, the Ancient itself gains a 4-up Feel No Pain, making it exceptionally durable while holding your home objective. And since Ancients are Space Marines, they do benefit from Shadow Masters and all the other infantry-based stratagems. That's it for the second part of this mini-series. Next time I will have settled on a list and will explain the intricacies of why I choose one over the other and how I will apply my units in the event itself. Courage and honor, Battle Brothers, we march for McCrack.